Yo, what's good, y'all? What's good, Mr. B Gang? Hey, I'm not gonna lie to y'all. I know y'all like, dang, where you been at? You ain't been making no vids. What's going on? Y'all can see the background. You know, new scenery. Um, there was some things going on. That's why I ain't been, dropping vids and stuff like that. But I don't live where I used to live at, as y'all can tell. You know, I live somewhere else now. Um, I won't be sharing where, not yet. You know, y'all also y'all might see, you know, who I'm with and stuff like that in my vids, and hopefully for um down the line, y'all gonna see me doing videos with that person. You feel me? My person. Um, but I don't know how y'all been. I don't know what y'all been up to, but I'm back. I'm gonna be dropping this content and stuff like that. I know y'all been like, have y'all been seeing what's been going on in the world? Like, it's getting wicked out here. I'm gonna be dropping content on like the stuff that just been recently happening in the world. Like, I'm gonna be also dropping videos on that. But as y'all can see at the title today, we gonna react to. Let's see, what's the how to beat every death trap that was in Saw. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. If y'all ever played the game was crazy. Like, they made a game to Saw. That shit was crazy. Playing that joint like on the PS3. It was crazy back then for me. I don't think I ever beat the game. I don't think I ever did. For those who are like our gamers, did y'all ever play the Saw game? Like back in the day when y'all was younger? But like I said, I'm gonna be dropping more content for y'all. Oh, if you're new to the channel, like, comment, and subscribe. Hit those post notices, because I'm gonna be dropping these videos, reacting and stuff like that. I'm gonna also be trying to do IRL content and stuff like that for y'all also as well. So y'all get to see like other stuff, and just instead of me just always doing reaction videos and things like that. If you already subscribed, you already doing me a huge favor. The people that's already subscribed, I love y'all. Thank y'all. I hope y'all having a blessed and peaceful day. And I wish nothing but the best for y'all, man. Thank y'all for subscribing to this channel. And the people that are new, man, hit that subscribe button. You feel me? Like I said, long down the line, y'all gonna probably see me doing like some content with the person I'm with, you know. But as for right now, let's get to this video, man. Hold on.
Three of Jigsaw's deadliest traps, what would you do? From reverse bear traps to needle pits, nerve gas, and everything in between, you've never seen more creative ways to die. Get ready to take a dive into one of the most twisted horror franchises of all time, because we're here to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat all of the death traps in Saw Part 1, 2, and 3. These ungrateful victims are about to have a whole new appreciation for what it means to be alive. From the moment that he wakes up at the bottom of a tub in some dark and dingy looking bathroom, it's pretty obvious to Adam here that he's in just a little bit of trouble. As he scrambles to get his bearings, another voice starts speaking to him from out of the darkness. This is Dr. Lawrence Gordon, his new roommate for the next 8 hours.
I'm not gonna lie to y'all, bro. This room was despicable. Like, oh, like, what did they do to get put in a room like this? Like, this is OC.
and he's just as confused about where they are as Adam is. They've both been chained to rusty pipes on opposite sides of a bathroom that seems like it.
I would have been done with the toilet. I'm just keeping the buck with y'all. The toilet looked crazy. Like, that room is wild.
Could give you Ebola from just looking at it, but somehow that's not even the worst part, because lying on the floor in the center of the room is a dead body, and he's holding a cassette player and a revolver. There are only 2 clues so far. Adam here does the only logical thing that you can do in a situation like this and starts to absolutely lose his shit. But it isn't long before he realizes that it's not getting him anywhere. And
I think my bad for pausing it, y'all, but I'm pretty sure, like, a lot of people would probably panic. Like, no bullshit.
Decides to start pulling on the chain instead. Obviously, that strategy doesn't work out either, so Lawrence suggests trying to remember how they got there, but neither one of them can recall a single detail about the attack. Looking around the room, he quickly notices that there's only one thing not covered in filth: a brand new clock up on the wall, so whoever did this clearly wants them to know the time. While Lawrence tries the door, Adam checks his pockets, and that's when he makes a game-changing discovery.
Bro,
this
game crazy, bro.
Envelope with his name on it, containing a small cassette tape that says "Play Me." Lawrence got an envelope too, but his is even more interesting, because besides just a tape, there's also a single 357 Magnum cartridge and a...
What y'all gonna do if y'all was the one with the bullet? No bullshit. Y'all just gonna end it all right there. Cause if y'all know about Saw, like, the dude was like, he was kind of like the Riddler. If y'all know who the Riddler is off of Batman, I'm pretty sure enough people probably know who the Riddler is. This nigga was like the Riddler, but in a way, like, real, like, fucked up psychopathic way, like a little way worse, because he would trap, like, I think the Riddler did stuff like this as well, but like the death traps that he put on like random people was insane, and you had to figure out the puzzles. Like, he's testing people's wit for them to also survive at the same time. He's kind of like the Riddler, no bullshit.
Small key hidden inside. They try the key first, but it doesn't seem to work on any of their locks, causing Adam to chunk it down.
Who y'all think is worse, Saw or the Riddler? Who y'all think is worse?
Down to the floor in a fit of gamer rage. Instead, he decides to go for the tape recorder being held by the dead guy, and although it's sitting far out of his reach, he's able to pull it over after several attempts by using his shirt and the bathtub plug to reel it in. Adam plays his tape first, but instead of answers, all that he hears is some crazy guy with a creepy voice roasting him for his poor life decisions. Tensions are already high, but things get even worse when they listen to Lawrence's tape. The same voice wants him to kill Adam before 6 o'clock. Otherwise, his wife Allison and daughter Diana will die instead. They're given one more clue. Allison's voice was already high. Kill Adam before 6 o'clock.
So, y'all see the time, right? I want y'all to peep this. He has to kill him before 6 o'clock. That means they got all this time to like 5. Like, I'm guessing this is at nighttime. They got into 5 in the morning to figure out how to get the fuck out this room. I want y'all to peep this. He got until 6 in the morning to kill this dude. I'm pretty sure in this time limit that he has, and that's a lot of hours. Bruh, y'all gotta figure out how to get out this room.
Otherwise, his wife Allison and daughter Diana will die instead. They're given one more clue. X marks the spot, and with that, the voice says that the time for their game has begun. Okay, man, talk about a rude wake-up call. On one end, we've got Lawrence, who's calm, collected, and trying to keep things under control. And then there's Adam, who decided to take the immediately start screaming like a 6-year-old girl approach. I'm not gonna lie, I'd be freaking out too, but it seems like there are a few obvious options that these two could try if they just slow down for just 1 second and think things through. First things first, we need to start by carefully checking every inch of the room that we can for any hidden tools or clues that might help us escape, especially the X marking the spot that Jigsaw mentioned at the end of Lawrence's tape. It'd be better to work together with the other guy for now, since we're both in the same situation, but we don't want to get too comfortable either.
Like the way this Saw like took people and put them to tests like this was based on like he found out what like stuff that they did in their life that was like bad, and it was kind of like trying to teach them a lesson. Like it was kind of like a bad way of trying to show someone the more, like give them a more of their own story to kind of be like a better person if they was fucked up. And this sound like some psychology shit, but this nigga's like the most worst psychologist in the world.
Because there might be a time when things take a turn for the worse, and we need to make some tough decisions. Plus, for all that either of them knows right now, the guy standing across from you could be the one that brought you in there in the first place. So we need to be careful who to trust. After getting our bearings, the next step is to start attacking the problems one at a time in an organized...
Like, I don't think most people would have even been thinking of that. Like, what are you was the person that put me in here?
And strategic way. Before we can go anywhere, we'll need to get out of the chains first. But instead of focusing on the chains themselves, I would pay more attention to the locks and rusty pipes that they're attached to. Those types of padlocks can be easily broken just by applying enough force. So I'd look around for anything nearby that I could use as an improvised tool, and try to either smash them open the old-fashioned way or pick the lock if we wanted to try that approach. Now, my guy Lawrence here is great at coming up with ideas when he's busy bossing Adam around. But where's that same brain power when it comes to himself? There's an obvious solution staring at him right in the face here. If Adam could reach the tape player, then why doesn't Lawrence try to reach the revolver next? I would try to tear some of those thinner pipes off of the wall behind him to give him some extra reach. Or just taking the same approach as Adam and using some of my clothes or belt tied together, which should work fine, especially if I find something heavy nearby to add some weight to it. If he could get his hands on that weapon, then that would open up all kinds of possibilities. He could shoot out the lock or just kill Adam and call it a day. Although it might be better to leave him alive for now, just in case he needs a meat shield later on. In the meantime, I'd also take turns just shouting for help as loud as we could. It might seem silly, yeah, but it literally couldn't hurt to try. On the bright side, at least they have 8 whole hours to figure it out,
they have
which
8
is way more than some of Jigsaw's other victims are going to get.
Wow.
So, when you look at it that way, they're actually kind of lucky for how this game was set up. The situation in the room is awkward to say the least, but Lawrence here noticed something about his tape that makes him think twice. Playing it back, he's able to make out the words, "Follow your heart," whispered quietly at the end of the message. And sure enough, there's a heart traced in poo-poo right there on the front of the toilet tank. It's up to Adam to reach on in there and start searching. But after digging around for a minute in the most disgusting water imaginable, these two geniuses suddenly realize that they might want to check underneath the lid. There we go. A black trash bag containing 2 rusty hacksaws. Not exactly what you'd call a Christmas present, but at least they're getting somewhere. Their first instinct is to start working away at their chains, but the saws are too weak to make even a scratch in the thick metal no matter how hard they try. Adam here goes so hard that he ends up completely breaking his, and chunks it across the room where it shatters off a corner of the mirror. As for Lawrence, he decides that he better stop before he breaks his saw too, and that's when he suddenly understands the terrifying truth. The saws weren't meant for them to cut through the chain at all. No, They were meant for cutting off their own feet. Putting the pieces together, he realizes that they must have been taken hostage by a notorious criminal who's still on the loose. And he knows this because Lawrence himself was once a suspect in the case. 5 months ago, a team of detectives began to uncover a series of grisly death traps, including one where a man was forced to crawl through a maze of barbed wire and killed in the process. At every crime scene, they'd always find the same two things: a cassette tape with a message for the victim and a jigsaw puzzle piece cut out of their skin. Although the news started calling him the Jigsaw Killer, the truth is that he's never technically killed anybody. Instead, he forces his victims to play by the rules of his deadly games, offering them a slim chance to survive if they somehow complete the challenge, as a way to teach them a new appreciation for their wasted lives.
Okay. This guy is seriously like the worst therapist ever. I mean, I get the point that he's trying to make, but there's gotta be a better way to teach people a lesson than forcing them to compete in the most complicated death traps that the world has ever seen. Am I right or am I right? Anyway, Lawrence here just made an absolutely terrifying observation. He seems to think that the hacksaws were meant for them to cut off their own feet. Right. And while I can see how this would technically get them out of their current predicament, I can't say that it's definitely the best idea for several reasons. Going through with something like—
Hold on, y'all, I'll be right back. I ain't gonna lie, like, I don't think I want to cut off my— I'm back, y'all, my fault.
That already sounds bad enough, but the reality of the situation would be worse than I think any of us could even imagine. Besides the obvious, excruciating pain that you're going to be facing, severe blood loss, and the risk of even going into shock, you might not think that losing a foot would seem all that bad compared to spending the rest of your life in this horrific-ass Ebola dungeon. Your feet actually contain several major arteries, which means that you could bleed out in minutes if you were able to actually get all the way through. The rapid blood loss and extreme pain could also cause you to go into shock and lose consciousness, which is the last thing that you would want to happen when every second means the difference between life and death. Follow me. Hypothetically, if they were going to try it, there are some strategies that Lawrence and Adam could use to increase their chances of survival.
I'm Abigail Spanberger, candidate for governor, and I sponsored this ad.
Winsome Earl Sears. What does she say about Trump's bad budget bill?
That's crazy.
Spot as close to the ankle as possible, since the bones there are thinner and easier to cut through. God damn, just thinking about it. Before starting, it would be crucial to apply a tourniquet as tightly as possible just above the cut point to minimize the blood flow. Using a shirt or belt should do the trick. The key would be to try and do it as quickly as possible. You know, like ripping off a band-aid, except 100,000 times worse. Once it was all said and done, they'd need to immediately apply pressure to the wound and get medical attention as fast as they possibly can, since even if they were lucky to survive the first 5 minutes, they'd still only have about 2 hours at the most before things really started to go downhill. Trust me, I've been watching this movie on DVD since 2004. I've thought about it a lot, you know? With that being said, going footless definitely isn't the best strategy. Instead, I'd try something obvious that they're both overlooking and just use that saw on the locks or the rusty pipe. Those should both be much easier to get through than the thick steel chain. And even thin pieces from Adam's broken saw could be used to try and pick the locks or somehow pry them open. We also can't let all of this craziness distract us from keeping an eye on the other guy in the room. If Lawrence had been paying attention, then he would have noticed that Adam here clearly found something else besides just the 2 hacksaws in the bag, and deliberately hid it from him in the bathtub where he can't see. Whether you choose to call him out on it right away or not is a different story, but you need to be paying enough attention to notice something like that if you're going to make it out of here in one piece.
At some point during their investigation, the detectives come across another test chamber, this one built for an insurance scammer named Mark. As a way to teach him a lesson, Jigsaw poisoned the man and brought him to a basement where he'd stashed the only antidote in a locked safe at the center of the room. His only chance for survival was to find the combination hidden somewhere in the hundreds of numbers painted all over the walls. But every inch of the floor was covered in broken glass, and Mark himself had been covered in a flammable liquid, making his only source of light, a small candle with an open flame, also his greatest danger. Needless to say, Mark here didn't make it, but the crime scene gave the detectives some interesting leads. For one, a peephole cut out of the wall told them that Jigsaw here likes to watch his games play out live and in person. But what was even more interesting was the pen that they found belonging to none other than our good old buddy Dr. Lawrence Gordon. Lawrence himself was busy giving some interns the rundown on his patient John Kramer, who was there receiving treatment for an inoperable brain tumor, when he was called over to the intercom to come to his office right away. To his surprise, he found city detectives David Tapp and Stephen Singh already there waiting for him, and they immediately started grilling him about his alibi from the night before. Although he wasn't exactly innocent himself, Lawrence knew that he hadn't committed any crimes. But when the detectives showed him that they found his pen at the latest Jigsaw scene, he had no choice but to follow them down to the station for questioning. Without saying too much, Lawrence admitted to his lawyer that it couldn't have been him, because the truth is that he was seeing someone that night who he didn't want his wife finding out about. The lawyer suggested that he might as well have come clean, and after confirming his alibi, Lawrence was clear.
So he a cheater. You're done.
Of any suspicion for the time.
Negative 100
but before
points.
he could leave, the detectives wanted him to listen to the story of a Jigsaw survivor who they'd just brought in, saying that it might help him remember any leads. In the next room over, they brought in a young woman named Amanda, the only person to have survived a Jigsaw trap so far. Nervous, she began to recall a story of how she was taken in by the maniac and woke up restrained to a chair with a horrifying contraption already strapped.
Bro, they put this in a game. Like, they recreated this, like, head bear trap thing in the game. Oh my god. When I was playing one of them Saw games, oh my god.
To her face. After
Crazy
struggling for a moment without any luck, a television on the other side of the room suddenly turned on, showing a video of a sinister-looking puppet that Jigsaw used to explain the rules of her game. He called this one the reverse bear trap, and when the timer ran out, the device would split Amanda's head in half from her jaw up, killing her instantly. Her only hope of escape was to find the key hidden in the stomach of a dead body in the corner of the room. As soon as she stood up, the timer on Amanda's mask activated, leaving her with only 60 seconds to complete the challenge or die trying. Panicking, she grabbed a scalpel from the floor, only to realize that the dead man was very much still alive, just paralyzed with medication. But by then, it was already too late, and she had no choice but to cut the key out of his stomach, killing the man in the process. Luckily for her at least, Amanda was able to unlock the device and save herself just in time, receiving a congratulations from the puppet, who rode in on a squeaky old tricycle, for having what it took to survive. The craziest part of all is that Amanda here was actually grateful to Jigsaw for what happened, saying that he helped her kick the addiction that would have eventually gotten her if she hadn't quit.
Okay,
That's wild.
this chick is seriously f***ed. fucked up, but I've got to give her some credit. She did the damn thing and made it out with her face still intact, which is more than any of Jigsaw's other victims can say so far. We're going to be seeing a lot more of Amanda here in later parts of the story, but for now, this gives us a great opportunity to point out something important. Thanks to Amanda,
If she would have checked the thing, I don't know if she would have known that there was a timer on it, but like as soon as she got up, that joint kicked in.
we've just had a first-hand demonstration on the #1 rule for surviving Jigsaw's death traps. The key here is to never under any circumstances start flailing around and freaking out before you've had a chance to carefully get a grasp of the entire situation. In this case, the timer on Amanda's trap wasn't activated until she stood up out of her chair and pulled the pin. Now, if she'd realized this before the timer was actually started, then it would have given her the option of examining the entire setup and trying to figure out a way to beat it without ever even activating the trap in the first place. After getting her hands free, she could have spent some time investigating the device itself and seeing if there was some way that she could damage, deactivate, or jam one of its crucial components, like the trigger pin, the timer, or the clasps holding it onto her head. Jigsaw is a pretty smart guy, so odds are good that there won't be any obvious weaknesses in the design for her to exploit. But giving yourself the time to at least try is much better than starting the timer and only having 60 seconds to figure it out before your head explodes. Plus, she could always just sit right there in that spot for the next 3 days or so before she eventually dies of dehydration, and just hope that some help happens to come her way before she has to handle the situation on her own. Once the timer started, she really didn't have any other options besides following through with the rules of the game the way that Jigsaw had set it up. That'd be easy enough if it really was just a dead body that you had to deal with, but realizing that the guy was alive completely changed everything. And it may have not been the most ethical decision, but you've gotta at least respect the fact that Amanda did what she had to do. Now it's off to the needle pit with her. I'm looking at you, Saul Part 2. But as for Lawrence and Adam, they've still got a long way to go.
If you were thinking of going to learn Kung Fu,
Bro, these ads, bro, it's crazy.
Lawrence makes Adam kinda paranoid, but when he grabs a piece of broken glass to threaten him, he notices something strange. One side of the glass is see-through, meaning that it's actually a one-way mirror, and after smashing the rest of it with some junk that he finds on the floor, they realize that someone has been watching them on a camera all along. Taking everything in, the two of them finally begin to understand that every part of this nightmare was precisely calculated in advance by Jigsaw. Adam questions how the doctor here can stay so composed when his wife and daughter could be in danger, but he says that protecting them is exactly why he's so determined to escape. To prove that he's telling the truth, Lawrence throws him his wallet full of pictures of his family, but as he's looking through them, Adam here makes a disturbing discovery. Hidden inside is a photo of Allison and Diana all tied up. With regards, from Jigsaw himself. On the reverse side is another message, reading, "Sometimes you see more with your eyes shut." Throwing the wallet back over to Lawrence, he decides to keep the picture a secret for now while he tries to figure out what the message could mean. On the night before, Lawrence left home for what he said was a late-night work call, but that was his biggest mistake. As soon as he was gone, someone kidnapped his wife and daughter, and now the man has them both tied up in their own apartment. But when he gets up to check outside of the window, he has no idea that there's someone else watching them from across the street, who Jigsaw doesn't even know about. After finishing up with Lawrence, Detective Tapp spent the rest of the night watching Amanda's tape over and over again until he finally found what he was looking for. For one brief shot, he could make out a particular graffiti tag on the wall behind the puppet, as well as the faint sound of a fire alarm going off somewhere in the background. This allowed Tapp and his partner Singh to narrow the location down to an abandoned mannequin factory across town. So they set off to the location to see if they can find any leads, never suspecting that they were about to walk right into a death trap. With Tapp leading the way, the two detectives broke into the abandoned factory and were able to quickly find Jigsaw's makeshift workshop hidden up on the second floor of the building. Besides what they saw on the tape, the place was full of tiny models of Jigsaw's recent traps. But that's when they realized that they weren't alone. Pulling back one of the sheets, they were shocked to find this whole-ass guy hidden under there, strapped to some sort of contraption with 2 power drills pointed straight at his neck, when all of a sudden they heard the elevator coming up. And in walked Jigsaw himself just as the detectives took cover behind some nearby construction materials. From their hiding spot in the corner of the room, the detectives watched as Jigsaw approached the man in the trap, springing out to confront him when they thought that he'd let his guard down. But before they could even react, Jigsaw kicked a button on the floor and activated the device, throwing the whole situation into complete chaos. Forced to make a choice between going after him or saving the victim, Singh jumped into action trying to deactivate the trap, while Tap held Jigsaw at gunpoint. With only seconds left before the man would be killed, Singh quickly drew his weapon and shot out the drills, saving his life. But while Tap was distracted, Jigsaw busted out a full-blown Assassin's Creed blade and slit his throat.
Hey, yo. Who do he think he is? This man just turned into the most psychological psychopath, murdering Riddler to a damn Assassin's Creed assassin. What the fuck is this? Like, what was the idea when they made this movie of this guy? You putting people in death traps, and then this nigga putting Assassin's Creed blades out his like, yeah.
With one swift move, disappearing deeper into the factory before Singh could catch him. Somehow, Tap here managed to survive the attack and handed Singh the shotty, telling him to go after Jigsaw instead, the chase leading him down into the tunnels below the building where death could be waiting for him around any corner. In one of the hallways, Singh drew down on Jigsaw and fired a blast straight into his back, dropping him to the floor. But as he moved in to investigate, he accidentally activated a tripwire that automatically fired several shotguns down at him from above. By the time that Tap could get to him, Jigsaw had already escaped, his body armor having saved him from the fatal shot, leaving Tap here completely obsessed with finding the madman and stopping him once and for all.
Okay, well fellas, I gotta say that I don't think that could have gone any worse if you tried. It's almost like that you forgot that you were going after the most deranged, calculating criminal genius that you've ever encountered in your entire careers, and you just decided to treat it like your first day on the job instead. Knowing his MO, you would have thought that they would have been just a little bit more careful about their approach, but now we've got one detective down, Jigsaw still on the loose, and there's really only one person to blame for this entire debacle. Detective Tap, you, sir, have majorly f***ed up. Alright, bud, since you're clearly struggling here, let me sit you down for a little Jigsaw 101. This guy loves his traps, clearly, so if you're going after him in his own workshop, it might be a good idea to expect the unexpected. Just a suggestion. Honestly, you two are even lucky enough that you made it through the front door without being killed, considering you just kicked it in without even checking. But I guess that luck doesn't hold up forever now, huh? As a matter of fact, let's talk about my boy Singh for a minute, because what just happened to him was wrong.
I ain't gonna lie. This man putting trip wires and who is this nigga? Hold on, I'll be right back. It's not that widespread, so don't worry. It's not that widespread, so don't worry. It really only sees like this, and then like a little bit of the couch. It don't see the whole.
so wrong on so many
y'all was
levels.
wondering what song
Tap
to,
here
that's
may
my
have
fiance,
fucked up,
y'all.
but poor Singh was the one who really got done dirty. You want to know what this guy's plans for the night were? He was heading down to the bar with his buddies from work to get a beer and a burger and then going home to be with his wife and kids. But instead, he got roped into an illegal search by this jigsaw-obsessed maniac and ended up paying the ultimate price. At least he was being more careful, but even that still wasn't enough. And I guess that's just the risk you take when you're dealing with a guy who isn't a killer, but set up a vertical shotgun booby trap for anyone who tries to trespass in his workshop. Seriously, 4 shotguns on a tripwire, but he's not a killer? Yeah. Okay, here I was thinking that Jigsaw's victims were only supposed to be bad people. Singh here did absolutely nothing to deserve this, besides just doing his job. And he didn't even get any warning or anything. Just straight up taken out in the most horrific way imaginable, so that his family can't even give him a nice funeral. That's just diabolical, Jigsaw, even for you. And as for Tap, don't think I forgot about you. What? Did you forget your handcuffs at home or something? First of all, you jumped out at the worst possible time, and by waiting until he was right next to the hostage, you gave him the perfect opportunity to pull one of the classic Jigsaw tricks. Your partner Singh did his part and saved a man's life, even though you were the one who dragged him into this death trap in the first place. But even then, you still couldn't keep up your own end of the deal. All that you had to do was cuff him, and it would have been case closed. But you literally just sat there dumbfounded until you got straight up Ezio'd with the hidden blade. Assassin's Creed reference. And all I can say to that is, damn. I guess Jigsaw had that throat slash precisely lined up to leave Tap over there looking like he's clinging to your life, but not actually in danger of dying, you know, since he's definitely not a killer and all that. The worst part about this whole disgrace was that they could have ended Jigsaw's entire career right here and now if they just made better decisions. With some backup, proper gear, and a solid plan, this could have gone in a completely different direction. But Tap, being in such a rush, led them to blowing it when they had their best chance of stopping him yet. And his partner was the one who ended up having to suffer the consequences. You're a bad detective, Tap. Go home. But you're an even worse friend, and that is why you f***ed up.
Tensions continue to escalate back in the bathroom, where Lawrence is getting more and more frustrated with Adam's cagey behavior. But something that the doctor says suddenly gives him an idea. Adam here tells his roommate to try turning off the lights, and that's when they realize that X has been right behind him the whole time, marked on the wall with glow-in-the-dark paint. Using the handle of his saw, Lawrence busts out the section of the wall and finds a small metal box hidden inside. It's locked, of course, but they're able to open it using the key that came with his envelope way back in the beginning, and inside they find several interesting items. There's a cell phone, a lighter, 2 cigarettes, and a note addressed to Lawrence, reminding him that there's more than one way to kill his opponent. Lawrence's first instinct is to try to call the cops, but he quickly realizes that the phone is only set up for receiving calls, not placing them. The sound of the busy signal suddenly triggers a memory of how he had been trying to leave a shady-looking parking garage the night before, only to be violently attacked and kidnapped by a figure wearing a red cloak and a pig's head mask, which finally explains how he ended up here. Getting suspicious, Lawrence demands to know how Adam here came up with the idea to turn off the lights, and after arguing about it for a minute, he finally decides to show him the picture that he found in his wallet. The doctor is completely heartbroken by what he sees, but this doesn't change the fact that his only way to save them is to finish the game, and now that he has proof that they're really in danger, he's starting to consider all of his options, including taking Adam out. Thinking it over, he remembers that the dead man in the room with them supposedly had poison in his blood and secretly dips one of the cigarettes into it while Adam here is distracted. For a moment, it seems like he's planning on killing the man to win his own freedom, but he's not actually ready to turn on him just yet. Instead, he shuts off the lights so that Jigsaw can't see them and quietly fills Adam in on the plan, telling him to play along. Turning the lights back on, he tosses Adam the safe cigarette, and he immediately starts pretending to choke on the poison in hopes of tricking Jigsaw. It's an Oscar-worthy performance, but the kidnapper calls their their bluff by shocking Adam with a jolt of electricity through the shackle around his ankle, proving that he's actually still alive. Desperate to escape, Lawrence goes back to madly sawing at the chain, but it's no use, and he tosses the saw away out of frustration. At the same time, the jolt of electricity must have jogged Adam's memory, because now he says that he can remember how he ended up there. On the same night that Lawrence was taken, Adam here was back at his rundown apartment developing secret photos of the doctor himself, and fell asleep at his desk only to wake up in pitch darkness with the power seeming like it'd been cut. Just then, he heard what sounded like someone else in the apartment with him and started using the flash from his camera to look for the source of the noise. As he made his way into the kitchen, he was jump scared by Jigsaw's puppet sitting in one of the chairs and gave the little creep a much needed beatdown with a baseball bat, but he wasn't safe yet. Hearing a noise from the closet, he slowly pulled open the door using a camera flash to light up the inside, and that's when the same pig-masked attacker jumped out of the shadows, knocking him out and dragging him off to play the game.
Okay,
That's the most
I
creepy
swear. The more
ever.
that I find out about these people, the dumber that I realize
they would have all got GTA. My fault. My bad. GTA.
that they are. This could be up there in the How to Beat Hall of Shame for one of the most easily avoidable abductions that I've ever witnessed. And when you look at how bad the consequences were for this screw up, it only makes it so much worse. Adam, my boy, old buddy, old pal, I'm just gonna say something here that might sound crazy to you, but I really want you to listen up and hear me out. If you think that there's an intruder hiding in your closet when you have a clear shot to the fucking front door, just leave. It's not like you had a wife and kids in the next room that you had to protect. The door was right there. So what the hell are we even doing still standing around in your kitchen in the dark? The instant that I saw that Jigsaw puppet sitting on my couch, I would have been halfway around the planet like Barry Allen so fast that the kidnapper would not have even been sure if anyone ever lived there to begin with. There's this little thing called fight or flight response that's been keeping us alive for millions of years, but it doesn't seem like you got either one, and maybe you just weren't meant to survive.
His spidey senses was not tingling in that moment. Me saying some shit like that, oh, I'm getting the fuck up out of there. I mean, the fuck up out of there.
In the same universe as a guy like Jigsaw, after all.
I ain't gonna lie,
at
that
the
dog
very
would've caught
least,
that.
He could have bunkered up somewhere in a defensible position and used some furniture
GTA
to
though,
block himself in. Then all he would have had to do is yell for help and start swinging that bat around if they tried to get him. But even with a baseball bat and the home field advantage, he still somehow managed to lose the fight. That's just embarrassing. Adam here just provided a great example of exactly what not to do if you ever find yourself in a similar situation. And his survival instincts clearly haven't gotten any better since then. But maybe if he gets lucky, there's still a chance of him making it out of this bathroom alive.
With only about 25 minutes left on the clock, the phone starts to ring as Lawrence receives a call from his wife and daughter. He hears Diana on the other end when he answers, who tells him that the man from her room has them, before handing the phone over to her mother. When it's Allison's turn, she tells him not to trust Adam in a way that sounds suspiciously like she's reading it from a script, but the kidnapper abruptly hangs up before he can ask any more questions. At this point, Lawrence here is officially ready to crash out, and starts demanding that Adam tells him who he really is. Finally, Adam agrees to come clean, but he's not the only one with something to hide. While his family thought that he was at work, Lawrence here was secretly at a motel having a sneaky link with his secretary. Although he and the woman didn't actually do anything, they received a mysterious phone call as he was about to leave, threatening to expose him. And Lawrence left the place in such a hurry that he didn't even notice Adam taking pictures of him as he walked back to his car. It turns out that Adam here had been hired by a man named Bob to get the photos, but he swears that he doesn't know anything else about the doctor's personal life. It isn't until he starts to describe the man that Jigsaw realizes Bob is actually Detective Tapp, still hell-bent on solving the Jigsaw case as a way to avenge his fallen partner, and convinced that the doctor here had something to do with it. He's absolutely furious with Adam for essentially stalking him, but what Adam points out is that he was just capturing the truth, saying that Lawrence has no one to blame for what happened other than himself. The bag containing the hacksaws was also full of pictures that Adam had been keeping a secret until now, but But as they're looking them over, they realize that there are a couple of photos in there of Lawrence's apartment that were definitely taken by somebody else. And in one of them, they can clearly make out a man named Zepp, who works as an orderly at the hospital, standing in his bedroom window, proving that he's the one who kidnapped Allison and Diana. It's a little too late though, because that's when the clock reaches 6, and now it's time for the final part of Jigsaw's game to begin. Back at their apartment, Allison manages to get her gag loose while the kidnapper is distracted. Speaking to her daughter, she reassures the girl that everything is going to be alright, and starts working at her hand restraints in an attempt to get herself free. Just as she finally does it, Zepp here comes back into the room and forces her to call her husband one last time, never realizing that she's no longer tied up. She plays along for a moment, but the second that she sees an opportunity, Allison leaps into action and tackles Zepp to the floor, wrestling his weapon away as she orders him not to move. Grabbing the phone, she tries to explain the situation to her husband, but as soon as she lets her guard down, Zepp jumps back up and starts trying to subdue her once again, with the two of them firing several shots into the walls of the apartment as they battle it out.
Okay, you have got to be
She should have just shot him.
kidding me. I seriously just can't deal with these people anymore. Let me take a deep breath before I say something that I might regret.
I ain't gonna lie, someone was kidnapping you and your daughter, and they was trying to kill you, and they got your husband somewhere else, and you get the up on them with the pistol. Shoot him. She gonna hold the jump, call, get distracted, and let him jump on her. Bruh, I would have shot him. I probably wouldn't kill him, but I would have shot him so he know if he jump, oh, he might die.
Aside,
GTA.
the family must depart. Look at Jack
GTA,
right the
GTA,
entrance.
GTA.
Alright, now that I'm cooled off, let's just take a second to talk about the absolute show that we just witnessed here. I think Allison might be giving Adam a run for his money when it comes to some of the worst survival skills that I've ever seen. Here's an idea. If the guy who you just escaped from is inching closer and closer to you, even though you're pointing the blicky straight at his face, just take the damn shot, please. Blast this creep back to Timbuktu and do the whole world a favor before exactly what just happened ends up happening. The only thing worse than getting kidnapped once is getting kidnapped twice by the same guy when he didn't even have a weapon the second time around. No weapon the second time around. Like that, She even had a phone in her hand that she could have used to, I don't know, maybe call 12. It's not like Lawrence was in any position to help her, so it doesn't make any sense to waste time telling him to hold on when you should be calling for help. She had the whole situation under control, but somehow, she still managed to blow it. We need to move on before I genuinely lose it, but at this point, whatever happens, happens. Good luck, idiots. You're clearly gonna need it.
The commotion across the street attracts the attention of Detective Tapp, who goes charging over there with his own weapon to join the shootout. Just as Allison manages to stab Zepp in the leg with a pair of scissors, Tapp over here knocks on the door waving the 4-4 and just starts blasting with absolutely no regard for the innocent woman and child who are caught in the crossfire. All that Lawrence can do is listen as his apartment pops off like the 4th of July, but thankfully, Allison and Diana are able to make a quick escape as Tapp runs out of ammo and charges across the room, spear tackling Zepp to the floor. After a brief scuffle, Zepp manages to stun Tapp with a glass vase to the back of the head, and quickly takes off out of there to go kill Lawrence, leaving the others safe for now. Just then, Lawrence is struck by what seems like a lethal jolt of electricity, but it's only enough to temporarily knock him out. Meanwhile, Zepp speeds over to the building with Tapp in close pursuit, and the two of them start popping off shots at each other in the tunnels as he scrambles to get to the bathroom and finish the job. The phone starts to ring again as Allison tries to call to tell him that they're alright, but it's sitting just out of Lawrence's reach. And he gets so frustrated with the whole situation that he decides that it's time to do something drastic. In a frenzy, Lawrence tears off his shirt and wraps it around his leg like a tourniquet before laying into his own leg with the hacksaw in a desperate play to set himself free. Tapp finally catches up with the kidnapper and starts giving him a brutal beatdown. But during the struggle, Zepp drops down and fires a shot behind his back, killing the detective just when he was finally about to crack the case. In the bathroom, Lawrence finally manages to saw through his entire leg before dragging himself over to the revolver on the floor and loading in his single cartridge. Even though he begs him not to do it, Lawrence raises the weapon and reluctantly fires a shot into Adam's chest, killing him in the hopes that Jigsaw will set his family free.
Okay, and this right here officially confirms that Lawrence is an absolute moron, the likes of which the world has never.
I ain't gonna lie, that was a dumb move. You literally could have been grabbed the gun by breaking one of the poles off. You did not have to cut your leg off, foot off. Just
Ever seen. He could have easily used the same saw that he just cut his own foot off with to reach the damn phone if he would have just tried even 1% harder. Then he would have known that his family was safe and all of this bloodshed could have been avoided. Instead, he just maimed himself forever, killed a guy, and still doesn't even know if his family is okay. He did have some nice form when it came to the amputation though, and you could really see those surgeon skills coming through, so I'll give him credit for that at least. But brother, that was easily one of the most brain-dead decisions that I've ever seen. And you're about to find out that you did it all for nothing.
What Lawrence here fails to realize is that his family is already safe and sound, but as for him, he's slowly bleeding out on the floor of this disgusting bathroom. And that's when Zepp comes crashing in to finish him off. Even though he technically killed Adam like he was told, he did it a few minutes too late, which means that according to the rules of the game, he still has to die. All of a sudden, Adam here proves that he's not dead by sweeping Zepp's leg and brutally beating him to death with the lid of the toilet tank, saving both of their lives just in time. The shot only hits his shoulder, leaving him injured but still alive, and Lawrence crawls out of the room promising to bring back help. But if they think that their game is over, then they're in for a terrifying surprise. Digging through the man's pockets, Adam finds another cassette player meant for Zepp, proving that he was only another pawn in Jigsaw's game. Remember that dead body that's been in there the whole time? It's at this moment that he suddenly gets up from the ground, peeling off the fake wound that he's been wearing and revealing his true identity. John Kramer, the cancer patient from Lawrence's hospital, or as he's known in the streets, the real Jigsaw. As Adam realizes that he's just been played like a fiddle, Jigsaw tells him that the key to his chain went down the drain of the bathtub when he first woke up in it 8 hours ago. After stunning Adam with another jolt of electricity, Jigsaw turns out the lights and closes the door, leaving him to die alone in the darkness. The game might be over for Adam, but as for John, his games are just getting started.
If you were trapped in a run-down house with no way to escape and only 2 hours to live, what would you do?
I'm not gonna lie, that was crazy, bro. That right there was insane. I'm not gonna lie, breaking this down, they done a lot of stupid stuff. Whereas if they would have kept it simple and didn't overthink everything, things would have went totally different. That's OC. I ain't even gonna lie to y'all. That's definitely OC. That right there is wild. But y'all tell me like what the situation is, cause me personally, that situation could have went totally different. If you ask me, that situation could have went totally different. But that's it for the video today, you guys. If you're new to the channel, like, comment, and subscribe. Hit those post notifications, because I'm always here to drop this content for y'all. I love y'all. Y'all stay safe. And I'll be making a part 2 of this video. Peace. Love y'all.